Hello, my name is Lika, and today I'm going to talk about past simple or simple past. First, my question: what is the past simple? Well, I'll show it on a timeline. As you can see, we have a red line which represents now, the present moment. For instance, I'm talking right now. But the other lines, blue ones, which are before now, are past. It's about something, an event, an action, or a situation started, happened in the past, and it's finished. Easy way to distinguish past tense from other events, which are nearly like, is using time markers, expressions. There, for instance, yesterday, last week, or month, year, just now, ago, in, or when. You do not use these words with any other tenses. Let's do some examples. Yesterday, I ate 2 cookies. I arrived 4 hours ago. Last week, Anne visited me. Time markers are your clues, so memorize them. Associate them with the simple past. Now, let's look at how we form the past simple. The first thing you have to remember when you're working with this tense is that in English there are 2 kinds of verbs, regular verbs and irregular ones. How do we know which is which? Well, it's kind of a little tricky, but the regular verbs are the ones that in the past tense, they just have ed or d. They end like that. For example, work becomes worked. Clean becomes cleaned. Watch becomes watched. But in the irregular verbs, we do not have form which has ed. In the irregular cases, sometimes the verb changes a little bit, and sometimes it changes completely. For example, go becomes went. See becomes saw, and buy becomes bought. Now let me show how to form the positive, negative, and question forms. First of all, let's talk about the positive ones. We need the base form of the verb, which we change into its past simple form. Is the second form as well. For example, the regular verb work, as we know, becomes worked, and irregular verb to go becomes went. And we can use that same verb for all these subjects, right? I worked, he worked, she worked, it worked, we worked, you worked, they worked, and the same about went. Now, let's look at what happens when we make it negative. Here, you have to use a helping verb, an auxiliary verb, which is the verb do and the past did, and negative particle not. It means didn't plus the base form of the verb without to. Didn't is the short form that we usually use in conversations. But what does it stand for? Didn't is actually a short form or a contraction of 2 words, did not. Now, what happens when we ask a question? We have to use that same helping verb again. This time, the order changes though, okay? For example, did I work? Did you work? Did you work? Did it work? Did we work? Did you work? Did they work? And the same about go. Now, did you realize something? Firstly, in a positive form, we had worked and went, the past simple form of the main verbs. But in questions or negative sentences, we had their base forms with helping verbs did or didn't. As you can see, we came back to the base form of the main verbs. So the only place where you need to change the form of the verb in the past form is its positive form. And finally, if you have a question word, you just put it before a did. For instance, where did you live 2 months ago? So, this is the entire structure of the past simple tense. Now, I want to teach you some spelling rules in case when we add ed to regular verbs. First, we take a base form and only add ed, and it works with lots of verbs like walk, walked, cook, cooked. But we also have some exceptions, and let's talk about them. Sometimes the verb itself ends with an e already, when we do not need to add ed, we only add d. For instance, bake, baked, use, used. But when the verb which ends in y has a consonant before it, consonant means anything that's not a vowel. Vowels are a, e, I, o, u, and the consonant is anything else but that vowel. So we cancel the y and add ied, like it's in the example. Cry, cried. Study, studied. But if the verb ends in y and has a vowel before, we do not cancel it. We simply add ed. For instance, play, played. Stay, stayed. Okay, and we have one other pattern that you might see often, and that is when we double last letter and add ed. It's this case: consonant, vowel, consonant. Vowel, we mean a short vowel between two consonants. Then we usually do it. For example, stop, stopped, plan, planned. Thank you for watching.